So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I just want to talk a little bit about the state of the race, which has fueled vile nativist attacks against me and my family. And I also want to tell you how this is going to tie into removing the dark money that is fueling these attacks. I will also say that I have already, being a man of action, we have already discussed this with the Speaker of the House and told him about what we intend to do with this. And he said that he will be welcome to take a call from any one of you and tell you that he intends to introduce this package I'm going to propose to modify the system of dark money, and we will get it passed the very first year we're in office. As you know, I am the only one that doesn't take money in this campaign, and that's why I have the courage to lead on this issue, because if you're part of the system, you can't fix it. I want to ask directly the Mace and Norman campaigns to stop these vile personal attacks, trying to divide us as Americans for your personal gain is sick, and the citizens are fed up with it. Jesus himself said, "A house divided amongst itself cannot stand." Leadership is leading with integrity, not this way. I also want to thank Pamela Yvette for coming out and standing up against this. She issued a statement recently, and I very much appreciate that. That's a great show of leadership on her part. I will also say to Alan Wilson, you have to lead with courage, Alan. Silence is acceptance. Why aren't you saying anything about these attacks? These it is actually more upsetting to me because of what it does to my family. But the state of the race right now, which is fueling these attacks, is the race has started to separate into two tiers. In tier one are Alan, Pamela, and myself. In tier two are Norman and Mace. Norman and Mace do not have any legitimate path to the runoff. So this runoff is going to be 2 out of the 3 in the top tier. And so I'm all that stands, by the way, between having one insider, Alan Wilson, the state lawyer for 15 years, against another insider, Pamela Yvette. That is what has fueled these vile attacks, which appear to be somewhat connected to the Mace-Norman campaign. We're going to show you why we think that. And I will say to you, to Mace and Norman, we will not allow us to be split into different types of Americans. Born here versus naturalized, even though our heritage is legal immigration, is not something this country ever wanted to see. And you have combined this, Mr. Norman, with a hint of attacking half of my Italian Indian heritage. The trial lawyers are out there saying we perhaps put this out ourselves to garner sympathy. How sick do you have to be to say that? I'll let Renee address that.
Thank you for coming today. I've known my husband for 20 years, and he has always appealed to the good in people. He's a good man, and these attacks, we're at a sad state of affairs. This has definitely affected my family and our 15-year-old daughter. I have ancestors buried in the cemeteries downtown Charleston that fought for this country. This is not what they wanted. Please stop these ugly attacks.
Thank you. My story is not unique. Like millions of Americans before me, I chose America. I immigrated here 50 years ago. 50. I became a citizen. I pledged allegiance to the Constitution. I raised my family here. I built businesses here, including 3 in South Carolina, created thousands of jobs. My foundation has spent decades fighting against child trafficking and education. This is the American dream. This is our heritage. This is not in the same category, but there are many naturalized citizens before us that made this country great, including Alexander Hamilton, who co-wrote the Constitution, Albert Einstein, who transformed science, Carnegie, who invented steel in this country. More recently, Elon Musk, First Lady Melania Trump, and of course Steve Hilton, who is running as the lead candidate in the gubernatorial race in California. Many naturalized Americans are buried in Arlington Cemetery who bled and died for this country. No one, including Mace or Norman, gets to tell them that they're not real Americans. So with that, I'm just going to go to some of these vile ads. And before I do that, I'm going to address something these ads talk about. Both my parents were physicians, and by God's grace, they were well-to-do. However, they taught me not to mock poverty, because as Christians, we're all children of God, made in His image, and we're all brothers and sisters in some ways. These attacks that I'm going to go through says not to be fooled, but they are faceless, anonymous, cowardly attacks designed to fool you. I will not divide the country I love. I always believe, it actually sits on my desk, what Ronald Reagan said. He said, I know in my heart that man is good, and what is right will always triumph over evil, and there is purpose and worth to every life. So I'm going to go through some of these. You start with Ralph Norman. He spent $260,000 on these ads with lies. Says I'm a big donor to the woke New York museums. I've never donated to any museum in my life. My foundation is set up, like I said, for children's issues. The only museum we ever donated to was the Ronald Reagan Museum when it was founded, and I was one of the founding donors to it. He says I'm a fraud. How can I be a fraud with my own money? There is no basis. He says I erased my past. It's because I've never had social media prior to Doge SC. I didn't erase anything. Then you come over to this. These are the text messages. As you know, they're all anonymous, which is allowed in South Carolina, by the way, and I'm going to come to how this is going to tie into ethics reform. And it says, I'm from a slum in India. I'm a foreigner, even though I've been an American citizen for longer than Miss Mace has been alive. And these are anonymous, and I'm saying, why do I bring up Miss Mace's name? Because she used the same language getting on with the Greenville GOP. This is the same language she used on there. Jeff Davis from the Greenville GOP was so offended, he actually texted me and apologized. And then you have Mr. Norman here, and he says he's a CEO versus me, that's tech support. I have never done anything with tech or support. That is a hit against, like I said, one half of my heritage. It's like Mr. Norman, who is a coward. He does it in subtle code, so it doesn't sound like it is. And shame on his wife for retweeting these things. Is this how you bring your children and your grandchildren up? Because I would never do that to my family, teach them this type of division and hate. And he says, politics is something about getting government contracts. I don't have any government contracts. I've never done business with the South Carolina government. I have no idea what he's talking about. but I have been CEO of multiple companies, not one. I've actually hired CEOs for companies I bought and developed CEOs. This guy has been the real estate development CEO apparently 25 plus years ago of his father's company. That's the only thing he's ever done. And I say, if you were a CEO, and I've told my CEOs this, from 25 years ago, your skills are obsolete. It's like showing up at an Apple tech conference and saying, see how good my satellite phone is. They don't work in today's environment. So this is a desperate, pathetic appeal to hang on to power. So how do we fix this for the citizens? How do we keep the citizens from having stuff like this? Anonymous texts, mailers, TV ads, by the way, that simply say something like Patriots for South Carolina, but you have no idea who donated to those PACs, the source donors, because South Carolina disclosure rules do not require it. The data centers, the trial lawyers, the special interests, they are all donating to these secret PACs anonymously. You have no idea that they're donating to these secret PACs. These secret PACs now have gone from state level all the way to counties and cities. And so they are corrupting the state from top to bottom, which is why we are going to propose in year one, which is what I referenced earlier, reforming this broken system for the citizens of South Carolina. And this reform would include full donor transparency for all election spending, the top donor disclosure on ads. Many states do this. That says you can't just say Patriots for South Carolina. You've got to disclose the top 3 to 5 donors to Patriots for South Carolina. So you know that data centers, for example, are supporting this candidate. Today, no one knows that. You go vote for these people, and it's a blind date. You have no idea who bought and paid for them. We want identification on every political text, so you don't have text like this, every mailer, and like I said, TV ads. Any independent expenditures from these PACs greater than $5,000 have to have 24-hour reporting. We want a public searchable database listing the organization's donors, so they are no longer secret. We want random audits of these PACs. And by the way, specific criteria for coordination. The Supreme Court ruled that PACs cannot coordinate with campaigns. South Carolina does not define coordination. Most states do. They say coordination means you cannot share personnel. You cannot have personnel go from the PAC to the campaign and back. You cannot share vendors. We have no criteria, which means we can't enforce it. So there's massive coordination between PACs and campaigns in South Carolina, and we want personal liabilities for officers who knowingly conceal sponsorships. So if anyone is printing a document, for example, a mailer that's anonymous, they are required to ask who's paying for it so they can put it on there. If they don't, they are personally liable, and we can personally go after them. This is going to be a groundbreaking change in South Carolina for transparency. It is the only way to get money out of the system. And I've already, like I said, we've already discussed these items with the Speaker. It will be in a bill that we will submit in the very next session. The Speaker has agreed to take it up and get it passed. I will get it done. I'll be the only one who gets it done because I don't take money. I don't depend on this corrupt money to win this election. Thank you for your time, and please let us raise the level of the conversation. The citizens are fed up with this. They do not want these type of vile attacks to be driving the narrative here in South Carolina. Thank you, and I'll take questions.
Mr. Reddy, have you heard at all from Congresswoman Mace or Norman since the weekend? Have you reached out? I'm just curious if there's been any offline discussions with either the candidates themselves or their campaigns.
They have never reached out, nor have their campaigns reached out. Miss Mace has doubled down. As you know, she not only got on that Greenville GOP meeting where she actually used these words. I believe pretty much what she said is that she is born in South Carolina. She is not someone from Ohio or someone from a slum in India. Those are the words she used getting onto that show. And she also went on to Channel 5, I believe, the Nick Reagan show, and said something similar about foreigners not being here. How do you qualify to be a foreigner if you've been a citizen here for decades, longer than, like I said, longer than she's been alive? Why do we divide ourselves like this? No, we have not heard from any of them.
And I will say, just for a point of clarification, that as this press conference started, it does appear that Attorney General Wilson has put out a statement calling the personal attacks against you unacceptable.
Thank you. Yeah, I hadn't seen that. I saw Pamela's.
It just happened.
Congresswoman Mace recently introduced a joint resolution requiring representatives, federal officers to be natural born citizens. She just tweeted about it a few moments ago. What was your reaction to that?
Well, she's been saying this. This is the hateful division she's been promoting. It is not constitutional. Our Constitution was not set up this way because our founders knew that we are a country of legal immigrants. We're not like, the Chinese or the Indians or anywhere else. We are a country of legal immigrants. Very different from illegal, by the way. That's a whole different story, which I'm totally opposed to. So we are a country of legal immigrants. And that's why they set it up this way. They did not want us to be divided like this. You think Alexander Hamilton, who co-wrote the Constitution, ever figured out that you'd have nasty, divisive people like Miss Mace? The only reason the president was required to be a natural-born citizen is because they were afraid that the president might still have loyalties to England. So actually, even the reasons for that were, related to the armed forces, as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. How can you ask people to go die and bleed for our freedom? Like I said, 20% of World War II veterans were naturalized citizens. How can you ask our naturalized citizens, go die, bleed for this country? Do the things you've done. Create the steel industry. Create what Musk has done. Do what we've done for science and say, oh, but you are a second-class American. You're not good enough to do what I do. In the case of Miss Mace, that would be nothing. In 3 terms in Congress, the only primary sponsor bill she has is renaming a post office in Hilton Head.
Mr. Reddy, South Carolina has a horrible reputation for its politics turning especially caustic, particularly in primaries. Does this cross a line?
I think so. And really, if I became governor, I think I want to raise the level of discussion. We're all about bringing people together. I've said this before. My personal beliefs, my political beliefs go back to the Constitution. My personal beliefs for all of us, for our family, goes 100% back to our Christian faith. And if you're a believer, you believe that we're all children of God and we are made in God's image, and God wants us to find the common good for our brothers and sisters. I will bring that type of thinking to South Carolina. I will raise the level of conversation. And I'm telling you something else, even politically, that if we don't forget about the moral aspect of it, which I'm addressing, if we don't do this, if we don't start bringing all these different Republican groups together, we're going to hand the state over to the Democrats. This happened in California. It's going to happen again. We cannot divide ourselves. We keep dividing ourselves. We're the only ones that can divide ourselves. I am not a divider. I've never been a divider in my business career. I will not be a divider as a leader of this state.
Last question. All right, Rom. So sometimes people characterize Republicans up at the State House as a bunch of cats. You can't get them to do the same thing. If you're governor, how are you going to get Republicans on your side and to enact your reform legislation? They're all over the place.
So first of all, I did get them to do it. I got all 85 House members to pass my judicial reform bill, all the different caucuses. That said, We have a fundamental problem with South Carolina the way we're structured. The Constitution requires that each branch prevent encroachment from the other branch. And so why is that? So the three branches can hold power in check and we have a free citizen, which is how we made the greatest country in the world. The executive branch in South Carolina has shirked its responsibility. They sit back looking at pocket kerchiefs and cutting ribbons, and they need to reassert their executive authority. He's got line item veto. He says he can't uphold it in a supermajority state, which requires 1/3 of the House or 1/3 of the Senate. He's got boards and commissions controlled by the legislature in his executive branch. I will go to these boards and commissions and say, you're fired. And they can go to court and challenge it in court, and I will win, just like the president is winning on asserting his Article 2 authority at the federal level. I will assert Article 4 authority at the state level, simply because if we do not reassert executive authority in this state, we will forever, on the 250th anniversary, we're going to take out the kerchief or the flag and wave the white flag and say, I am giving up on the foundational principles of this country. I will not do that. The last sentence of the Declaration, for all of you who are not very familiar with civics, simply says, with the reliance on the protection of divine providence, I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor to defending the principles of this Declaration. And I will do that. I will pledge my life, my fortune, and my honor to defending the principles in the Declaration. That is our guiding document. We need to find the courage to go back to it. We have given that up. We're going to find it. We're going to redo this thing. I've said South Carolina cannot be fixed. It needs to be rebooted, and I will reboot it.